Welcome to the Libido Lounge, where we focus on all things love, lust, and libido. We believe that fabulous sex is important to health as exercise and good food. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode on the lounge. I'm your libido expert, Dr. Diane Mueller. I'm so excited about my guest, dear friend, Dr. Susan Fox, who is a fertility expert. And you might be initially wondering, why are we talking about fertility on a libido show? But you're going to see why, because these things are so innately connected. And one of the things I tend to talk about, a lot of these vicious cycles we get into with libido and stress and medicine and fertility and infertility, is a really good example of this cycle, because we're going to talk about how we go through baby making in a way where we're using our libido to keep us relaxed and to keep us less stressed, because that's a vicious cycle we can get into, right? We're excited to have kids. We go through this process of fertility and a lot of stress can kick in, and that's not good for our libido. And we can get in this vicious cycle. So that's what we're going to explore today and more. Welcome, Dr. Susan.
Thank you, Dr. Diane. I'm so happy to be here with you.
It's such a pleasure. And let's jump right in. So
Okay.
let's talk about, this cycle I'm talking about. So you coach a lot of women, you work with a lot of different women and couples. How do you help them during this really, emotional time, during this exciting but emotional and scary time? How do you help them stay connected? How do you help them keep their libido healthy when oftentimes it's like, okay, well, we have to make sure we're making love at this exact time, and all those things that can come up in baby making?
Exactly. Well, thank you. It's a perfect question. And it is a question that comes up all the time, because if we weren't thinking about it, as our natural rise in estrogen as we get close to ovulation is what makes us juicy and horny. And yet when we're on the clock, because we said this month is a month we want to try, we sort of get out of our bodies and into our heads, and we start to schedule it. And so even though the estrogen is climbing, our cortisol, our stress hormones are a little bit more elevated. And so we're just kind of not, paying attention to our natural rhythms. So I will tell women to think about, women and people to think about, before it's bedtime, before this, they say, okay, let's go make love and see if we can get lucky this month. Begin by maybe touching yourself, setting the room. So most people are hopping into bed around, 10, 11, something like that. I'll say, start at 7 o'clock. And here's where my Chinese medicine sort of background comes in, because 7 o'clock is the time where our pericardium, the wrapping around our heart, and we mean it metaphorically, even though it's also physiologically and physically true as well. So start softening that sort of wrapping around our heart around the 7 p.m. time. Maybe that's lighting a candle. Maybe it's, just having something nourishing, a delicious cup of tea that really feels sensuous. Maybe it's beginning to talk sexy with your partner, or touching your partner, or touching yourself, so that you can start to really connect with your body at the right time, so that, it's either in the 7 p.m. time or later, you've begun to literally stroke the fire, stoke the fire, stroke the fire.
Yeah, I love that. Yes, stroke the fire, stoke the fire is really good. And I think it's so true, right? We get into these moments where it's like, especially as women, and I just say this intentionally to women because we have a longer time oftentimes to arousal than our male counterparts. So I mean this inclusively, but just because we see that. So we can need oftentimes more time to get in the mood, right? So, and some of what you're talking about then is like, okay, if we are getting into this point of we're ready to make babies, then some of it is like we need to get out of kind of thinking about this as like this baby making thing happens between this particular hour, and is more around, making a baby is like really part of our lives, right? It's something that we're orienting our entire, much more of our day to than just that like moment of sexual intimacy, right?
Right. Right. It's much more than the rub ejaculate moment.
Right.
Although I do advise to the best of one's ability, and also that's a reason to really stoke the fire, is that a woman's orgasm is very helpful in a natural conception of bringing that sperm right on up the vaginal canal so that she can, get the good ones past the cervix and in to meet the egg.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much, like, we talk so much about all the pleasure with orgasm, but obviously we have orgasms also for a very functional reason too. Is there
Mhm.
anything, because I know some of our listeners might be thinking like, oh my gosh, like, oh, but I have a hard time orgasming. So I'm never going to be able to make a baby now. Is there anything you would say to people if they're worried about that? Because orgasms can be difficult for some
That's
women.
a very good question. Thanks for raising it. No, when it is not required, it's obviously delightful, and if that is something that is accessible to you, then it is an enhancement, if you will, because the muscles of the vagina will draw up. But really, enjoy, be relaxed, begin by really feeling your sensual nature. That's really it's the intimacy of a partnership of intercourse that is the true spark that brings sperm to egg. An orgasm is not required.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. I think it's really important. And just like to normalize this so much, especially because of,
Mhm.
what we even know anatomically around like, oh, some women anatomically, just based upon erectile tissue or the location of the clitoris, it's like can be a lot more challenging to orgasm than other
Right.
women. And we always want to make sure there's so much inclusivity
Yeah, this
around
is
this,
this is
right?
not performance. This is
Right.
everything but performance.
Yeah.
It's really just enjoying the act of intimacy.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Yeah.
so then let's take that enjoyment into the day, right? So it's like, okay, to get out of that stress and to really just get into the enjoyment of that pericardial space and that love and that connection and everything that we get by heart opening and that intimacy through heart opening. What about like the rest of the day? Is there anything that you would advise from like the moment we started talking about 7 p.m., like candles
Mhm.
are lit? Well, what about the rest of the day? Is there anything else that we should be thinking about throughout the day to really get our libido juiced up, to get ready for baby making time?
Mhm. Well, certainly, as we wake, so do we sleep. As we sleep, so do we wake. So getting yourself into, sort of the morning light upon awakening, really getting your face to the sun, starting to set your circadian rhythm. So once again, that stress hormone isn't overriding, and that by the time dusk approaches, our melatonin, our natural antioxidant and feel good hormone and sleep hormone after when we're ready to sleep is at the ready. I would certainly say, it's the basics, right? Be hydrated. I know people will say, have a glass of wine and you'll have a baby. So maybe, but take good care of yourself. Be hydrated. Eat well. Really, it's that sense of self. I mean, that is pleasure as well, right? Nourishment. So I would say, to the best of your ability, those are things we can place earlier in the day. And then, maybe it is light a candle. Maybe it is put on some of your favorite music. Maybe it is, applying maybe a second layer of oil or lotion to your body. So you're literally touching your skin, to really just feeling the pleasure of being a human being and all of what that sense of touch will give us.
Yeah, I think there's so much that happens, throughout the day. It's like our body, like I've heard, I haven't actually met anybody yet, but I've heard of people having elbow orgasms, because we have
Mhm.
so much like erotic tissue all over our body. And so
Mhm.
all of these different erogenous zones. And so as we go through the day, we start to awaken the body up. But what if like, so how do you respond to women when they feel and I mean all humans, but it is a lot of women that listen to this show. So how do you respond to humans when they feel like, oh my gosh, I just don't feel in my own body? And like, okay, I listen to this podcast. I try to like turn myself on. I'm trying to get into the mood. I want my libido good. I want my stress down. I'm ready to make babies but yet I ate too much for dinner, or I'm having indigestion, or like even like post pregnancy when we start to have our body change, but we still want to keep that passion alive with our partner, and we're starting to feel like, oh, I don't feel comfortable in my own body. Like, how do we
Mhm.
keep that libido going and the flame alive?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, it's actually a really valid point and an interesting question, because if we're feeling like we don't love our own bodies, if we don't love ourselves, it's harder to evoke, we're magnetic beings. It's harder to evoke that sensation, externally in the environment. So I would say, maybe even a fake it till you make it sometimes, because we really can also be disciplined and conditioned to, like, oh, all of a sudden I was, kind of just applying the lotion, but today I can feel it. So I would say, give yourself permission, give yourself a wide berth to just try it. Try whatever evokes your passion. And sometimes I'll say, when you were a teenager, did you love to sing? Did you love to dance? Did what were the things that would evoke an enlivening of you? And it does, this is not performance art. So whatever you like to do, if you're coming out of the shower and you just want to shake it off, forget the towel, just shake it off. But yeah, I think that's probably the best I can say, because it breaks my heart, and certainly I am guilty of guilty. I have experience in having, had negative self-talk, but all that is going to do is repeat itself, right? So catch yourself when you can, and then shift the conversation a little bit, like, oof, oh, my heart, what did I, oh, my pericardium, what did I just hear myself say to myself? Because if I don't like my hips, how about my eyes? How about my cheeks? How about my breasts? How about my hands? That's where we are not just the one body part. And I think sensualizing versus sexualizing ourselves is what will help get us to the place where we really love ourselves and can be in love and be making love.
Yeah, I really think it's so important. And I talk sometimes about that Rosemary Bassan's model of arousal, right? Where it's like, it's for men, it's very linear, the arousal, but for women, it's like, oh, sometimes we actually start having to start engaging sensually, sexually. And it's not until we're engaged in it, like the arousal comes later. It's like being,
Exactly.
20 minutes into whatever intimate act. And it's like, oh, I'm glad I'm doing this. But it sometimes
That's
takes
right.
a little
That's
while to
right.
get there, right?
So to the extent, since we live and work in a time-space continuum, to the extent that if your planned time together, your expected time together is later in the evening, begin by yourself, with yourself, appreciating yourself, literally feeling yourself either by touch or just from the inside out.
Yeah, I think there's so much there. Like that, the concept I like about that is like ultimately we are responsible for turning ourselves on, right? Like I love when, partners get to turn us on and all that is amazing. But ultimately, the more we can as human beings turn ourselves on and take that own responsibility, it can just get deeper and juicier. And then we get to have all those good hormones and feelings regardless of, what comes next. Right.
Exactly. And I'm going to be a little biased here, but
Yeah.
it is my experience in all of these years walking on the earth, and my perception that, that those of us who have the feminine, partnership aspect really do create the environment. So it's almost like that's our CEO opportunity to say, okay, this is what it's going to look like this time. This is what I want. And it really does also help us get in touch with, who am I and what do I want today, this time, this month, this ovulation cycle. I want to have, I don't know, pink sheets or satin sheets or fur on the bed or wherever we're going to be, or I want to have lavender, or I want to have geranium as the scent in the background or something like that, so that we really are creating the sensual experience before we step into the room.
You're giving me so many good content ideas on this, because I think there's, one of the things in some of the work I do is like around archetypes, right? And it's like there's all these parts of ourselves. There's like the CEO part, there's like the tiny, meek, timid part, there's the part that's the teaser, there's the part that's like really owning her sexuality. There's all these
Absolutely.
different parts. And like,
I love me a slut.
yes, right, exactly.
So
Exactly.
who's coming out and who's coming, hopefully,
Yes.
this time, especially here again, if this is the time that you want to be baby making, try to get out of your head and really back into your body and your spirit. And in Chinese medicine, again, as you know, Dr. Diane, red is the color of the heart. And so, maybe it's eating, and we really do ascribe to that it is holistic. So, maybe wearing red, maybe eating red, is it raspberry or strawberry time, or is it, I don't know, lobster time, if you're going with the proteins,
Yes.
look for the things that really say, oh, yes, that, because we're reminding ourselves, we're remembering that part of ourselves that is sexy, juicy, sensuous, and wanting to connect. Because ultimately, that's it, right? It's the ultimate. Libido
100%.
is connection.
Yeah, that's why I do this. It's my number one core value is connection. Exactly
Yeah.
right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So then in women you work with and in couples you work with, you guide them right through the process of physical, mental, interrelational ways of supporting them with fertility. Is that really what your work is involving?
That's true. Yes. I mean, oftentimes when they come to me, they are about to begin an IVF cycle. They've kind of, gone through their journey, and they're kind of a little bit feeling a little desperate, shall we say, little, which means a little bit more in their head. They know they're also about to undergo injections, and, and things are more timed than one might expect in a cycle or month where you might be trying to conceive naturally. So all the more I'm trying to help them just take a step back, go up to 30,000 feet or 3,000 feet even, and say, oh, right, I want to have this baby because I love this person, and we have decided to do this together. Because it is, sometimes it can even almost get to a place of conflict or contentiousness, while one is feeling a little bit more cerebral about it, and the other is feeling a little bit more left out. And again, in the aspect of IVF, there's a third partner in the room, so to speak. It's the doctor who's helping to administer, observe. It can feel very clinical, and yet, even though injections are causing more eggs to grow and more follicles, it's still in your body.
Yeah.
It is still nature, and you want to nurture your nature of your body.
Yeah, I'm really liking that, kind of that awareness, right? Of like, this is really clinical, but yet how do we actually honor that? How do we acknowledge that? Because it has to be, but also how do we keep it where it's still embodied, where we're still honoring all the other components of this that are non-cerebral. So I hope everybody that is
Humor
listening.
also. I
Oh
mean, there
yeah.
are times that I'll just say, "Oh, IVF that." Oh,
Uh-huh.
IVF off,
That's
or
really
it's
good.
IVF'd up. So
Yep.
just a way to kind of go, "Oh, right, this is occurring, and yet it's not happening to me. It's happening with me. I'm driving this ship, so to speak."
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm so glad we got to have this conversation today. And I want to make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you, because I think you're definitely an amazing resource that anybody that needs support with fertility should really know about. So, how do people get a hold of you?
Thank you. Well, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, and within a geographic zip code, that website, if you will, to get in touch with me in person is drsusanfox.com. If you want to discuss this sort of outside state lines and more coaching environment, that is healthyouniversity.co. And university is spelled YOU. So the University of You.co, not com. And we also, if fertility is a question for yourself or someone you love, we start with a quiz so that we can get into that sort of Chinese medicine 5-element model. And that site is yourfertilityquiz.com. So drsusanfox.com, healthyouniversity.co, or yourfertilityquiz.com. All of them will get you to me.
Perfect. And we'll have all those links in the show notes for you guys. And I just want to thank you so much for being here with me today, Dr. Susan. It's been really fun. I feel like we should have a longer conversation about Chinese medicine at some point. And there's other fun, juicy questions I have going through my head for another.
Oh, absolutely. TBD. No,
Right.
to be continued, not to be determined.
Yes.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, wonderful. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Libido Lounge. Remember, you'll find all of Dr. Susan's notes and all of her links in the show notes. This is Dr. Diane, your libido expert, reminding you to always stay classy, always stay sexy, and always be a little badassy. We'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Libido Lounge. Please don't keep me a secret. Please share this with your friends. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, as well as how to work with me at mylibido.com.